At the 10th anniversary celebration of J Corporation, Zhu Yangguan slapped me hard across the face in front of directors, journalists, and a hall full of relatives and friends. All because when Ning with red-rimmed eyes claimed I deliberately spilled red wine on her dress, humiliating her on stage. I didn't cry. I didn't explain. I just took off my wedding ring, slipped it into my clutch, and sent a message to Wen Tang. Cancel the guarantee. Prepare for divorce. The lights at Du Corporation's 10th anniversary celebration were blindingly bright. So bright that when Zhu Yanwan slap landed, I could clearly see the sapphire cufflink on his sleeve, the one I gave him last year. Back then, he'd said, Caillou, without you, there would be no Zhu Corporation today. But now, standing below the stage, shielding Wen Ning, his gaze was as cold as if he were looking at a stranger causing a scene. Wen Ning's white gown was stained with a large patch of red wine. Her eyes were red, her fingers clutching the hem of her dress, her voice soft enough for everyone nearby to hear. Yanguan, forget it. Sister Caillou probably didn't mean it. The more she said, forget it, the quieter the room grew. I stood before her, my hands empty. That glass of wine wasn't mine to spill. I hadn't even touched it when Ning had walked over with the glass, her shoulder lightly brushing mine and the cup tipped from her hand, the liquid splashing onto her own dress. She looked at me, a faint smile flickering in her eyes. Only I saw it. The next second, her eyes were red. Zhu Yangguan strode over. His first words weren't to ask if I was okay. He said, Kai Wu, haven't you caused enough trouble? I looked at him. You think I did it? He lowered his voice. Do you know what occasion this is? With so many shareholders and media, do you have to embarrass me? Before I could respond, my mother-in-law, Yolin, pushed through the crowd. Seeing Wen Ning's dress, she immediately frowned. Kai Wu, how can you be so thoughtless? Ning was representing J Corporation on stage today. Ruining her dress is ruining Yanwan's face. I let out a faint laugh. I didn't touch her. Zhu Yanwan's expression darkened. Everyone saw you standing right in front of her. I said, standing in front of her means I spilled the wine. Wen Ning gently tugged at his sleeve. Yangguan, don't blame Sister Kawu. She might just be upset that you let me go on stage. That hit harder than the red wine. The entire room's gaze shifted. Someone whispered, so it SS jealousy. Another said, Miss J has kept a low profile all these years. Didn't expect her to have such a temper. Some looked at me, some at Wen Ning. Others looked at Zhu Yangguan. Zhu Yangguan cares most about face. He could tolerate the company losing money, but he couldn't stand his dignity being torn down by me. He stared at me, apologized. I looked back at him to Wen Ning. I suddenly found it absurd. 10 years ago, when Zhu Yanwan's startup failed, he sat on the floor of our rented apartment, clutching a stack of rejected funding proposals. He'd said, Kai Wu, I'll never let you suffer in this life. Now, standing in the celebration he built with his own hands, he wanted me to apologize to the woman who set me up. I said, I won't apologize. The last thread in Jian's patience snapped. He raised his hand. A sharp slap rang out. The music in the hall kept playing, but I couldn't hear a thing. As my head turned, my lip hit my teeth, and I tasted a hint of blood. The entire hall fell dead silent. When Ning gasped as if shocked, my mother-in-law reacted first, quickly, stepping in front of Zhu Yangguan and forcing a smile at the journalists. Just a little marital spat. Please don't take photos. Don't take photos. I slowly turned my head back. Zhu Yangguan was frozen too, staring at his own hand as if he hadn't expected himself to actually strike. A few seconds later, he resumed his composed CEO demeanor. Kai Wu, don't blow this out of proportion. I looked down and saw the wedding ring still on my finger. That ring was bought by Zhu Yangguan with his first profit. It wasn't expensive, but back then, I thought it was heavier than any jewelry. I took the ring off. Yolin immediately frowned. What are you doing with all these people here? Are you trying to threaten Yangguan? I didn't answer. I pulled a tissue from my clutch, wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, and tucked the ring into the innermost layer of my bag. Zhu Yangguan reached for me. Kai Wu, let's go to the lounge first. I dodged his hand. Zhu Yangguan, A lot of people saw that slap tonight. His face darkened. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and opened Wu-Tang's chat. Wan Tang was my college classmate and a divorce lawyer. She'd urged me many times over the years. She'd say, Caillou, don't let yourself become the Zhu family's invisible asset. I used to always say, wait a little longer. Wait until J Corporation stabilizes. Until Yanguan isn't so tired. Until my mother-in-law stops nitpicking. Until when Ning learns her boundaries. But what I got instead was that slap. I typed Wan Tang, start divorce preparations first. Remove all joint guarantees under my name. Freeze authorization for due family household expenses. Organize the premarital capital agreement and the equity proxy confirmation letter. After sending it, I looked up. Zhu Yangguan was still staring at me. He thought I was just throwing a tantrum. He lowered his voice. If you walk out now, every media outlet tomorrow will write about discord between the Jews. Kai will have some sense of the bigger picture. The bigger picture. He loved using that word to pressure me. When the company needed financing, he made me sign unlimited joint guarantees, saying it was for the bigger picture. When his mother wanted to live in a villa, he had me use my premarital fund to cover it, saying it was for the bigger picture. When Ning returned to the country, he arranged for her to be his special assistant and told me not to overthink it, also saying it was for the bigger picture. I nodded. Fine. Zhu Yangguan visibly relaxed. But the next second, I picked up the microphone from the table beside me. All eyes in the room turned back to me. Zhu Yanyuan's expression shifted. Kai Wu. I pressed the switch. A faint static hummed through the speakers. I stood at the base of the steps, half my face still flushed red. Sorry to interrupt everyone. No one spoke. I looked at Zhu Yangguan. Today is J Corporation's 10th anniversary. As Juana's wife, I wish J Corporation a bright future. Juana's tense shoulders eased slightly, even when Ning showed a hint of relief. I continued, and I also wish President Zhu, starting tonight, learns to take responsibility for every decision he makes. Zhu Yanyuan's face instantly changed. I set the microphone back and turned to leave. This time he didn't chase after me because the reporters were filming, because the shareholders were watching, because his dignity mattered far more than his wife. As I reached the banquet hall's entrance, I heard low murmurs behind me. What did Mrs. do you mean by that? Is she really going to divorce him? Divorce? Zhu Corporation is worth tens of billions now. Would she give that up? I pushed the door open. The night wind rushed in. The pain on my face finally became clear. I didn't cry. I just opened my banking app and turned off the first automatic transfer. Per Yerlin note. Daily expenses for the old residents. Closed successfully. Second item. Due family villa property fees. Closed successfully. Third item. Zhu Yanwan's private jet maintenance fee. Closed successfully. Fourth item. Rent advance for the apartment under Wen Ning's name. I stared at that line and let out a faint smile. Turns out some accounts you don't check. You never know. I clicked close. The screen prompted. Are you sure you want to terminate this authorization? I pressed confirm at the same time. W. Tang replied. Finally awake. I answered. Yeah. Did he hit you? Yes. Get a medical exam. File a report. And keep a list of witnesses from the public setting. Don't be afraid. I'll fight this all the way for you. I put my phone away and walked down the steps. Behind me, the banquet hall blazed with lights. I didn't look back because I knew it all too well. From this moment on, Zhu Yangguan had lost more than just a wife. He had lost the one person who cleaned up every mess he left behind. The hospital lights were colder than the banquet halls. The emergency room doctor saw the handprint on my face and glanced up at me. Domestic violence. I said, yes. The doctor paused, softening his tone. Do you need to file a police report? I nodded. Yes. I used to be terrified of making a scene, afraid of affecting Zhu Yangguan, afraid of affecting the Zhu Corporation, afraid my mother-in-law would say I wasn't taking care of the family, afraid outsiders would call me a drama queen as Mrs. Zhu. But today, I wasn't afraid anymore. The nurse took photos for the record, and the doctor issued a medical certificate. Soft tissue contusion on the cheek. laceration inside the mouth. The injury wasn't severe, but the evidence was enough. When Wen Tang arrived at the hospital, she was still holding a jacket. She saw the red mark on my face, and her eyes turned cold instantly. Zhu Yingguan did this. I nodded. She draped the jacket over my shoulders. 10 years. Kai Wu, you finally pulled yourself out of the mud. I didn't argue because she was right. Zhu Yingguan and I weren't always like this. He used to be good. In the early days of starting the business, when his stomach acted up, he'd crouch in the stairwell of the office building to throw up, and I'd buy him medicine. When the first deal fell through, he sat on the curb in silence, and I transferred my savings to him, telling him to hold on for 3 more months. When the company was first rejected for a bank loan, he said he just needed a guarantor. I signed back then. I thought marriage was about carrying the load together. Later, I realized that if someone gets used to you carrying everything, they forget you can hurt too. Wen Tang spread out a folder. I did a quick look at what you sent me tonight. You have 3 types of risks under your name that need to be cut off immediately. I sat up straight. Go on. First, the early loans from J Corporation. You're the joint guarantor, even though the contract has a release clause. Zhu Yingguan never went through the formal process to release you all these years. Second, the Zhu family's household expenses are basically tied to your personal account and premarital fund, including his mother, his sister, and part of Wen Ning's expenses. Third, the equity nominee arrangement. You put some of your original shares under his name back then to avoid affecting his external fundraising. Do you still have the agreement? Yes. I took a USB drive out of my bag. The digital copies and scans are here, and the paper copies are in the safe in my study. Wen Tang took it. Good. Starting tonight, don't sign anything. Don't answer calls from the Zhu family, and keep all communication in writing. She looked at me, and you need to move out. I said, tonight. Wang nodded with satisfaction. That's more like you. When I came out of the hospital, my phone was almost blown up. 27 missed calls from Zhu Yingguan, 18 from Yaolan, 9 from my sister-in-law, Zhu Yuan, 1 WeChat chat message from W Ning. Sister Kai Wu, what happened tonight really isn't what I wanted to see. Yingguan just cares too much about the company. Don't blame him. I stared at that message, took a screenshot, and saved it without replying. Joanna's call came in again. I hung up. He switched to WeChat. Where are you? Kai Wu. Don't make a scene. Why did the property management fee fail to deduct? Why did the rent for Wen Ning's apartment stop? What do you mean? When I saw the last line, I froze. Wen Tang saw it, too. She let out a cold laugh. He finally feels the pain. I replied with 2 words. Literally. Zhu Yingguan responded instantly. Do you know what time it is? J Corporation just had the celebration banquet, and the bank is reviewing the credit line next week. You're pulling this now, trying to ruin me. I stared at the screen. So in his mind, me getting hit wasn't the issue. The property fee being cut off and the rent being stopped. That was the issue. I typed Zhu Yingguan. I am no longer obligated to cover the personal expenses for your mother, your sister, and your special assistant. He replied quickly. When Ning's apartment was arranged by the company, I opened that deduction record. The lease contract was signed by Wen Ning, but the pair was me. The note was filled in as Zhu Yingguan instructed at the time. He said, Wen Ning had just returned from abroad and had no stable place to stay, so I should front the cost first. I asked why not use the company account, and he said the company's accounting process was too cumbersome. I believed him. Now it's clear it wasn't cumbersome. It was shady. I sent the screenshot over. If it was arranged by the company, why was it deducted from my premarital account? There was a long silence on his end. Then he sent, Caillou, do you have to be so petty? I laughed. Wang looked at me and asked what he said. I handed her the phone. She cursed. Unbelievable. I didn't reply. The car stopped outside our wedding home. This apartment was bought in the first year of our marriage. I paid 70% of the down payment, and both our names were on the deed. I oversaw the renovation, even the desk in his study. I flew to Italy 3 times to pick out. I used to think this was home, but when I pushed the door open, it just felt empty. The housekeeper saw me and jumped. Madam, what happened to your face? I said. I fell. She didn't press, just whispered. Mr. J hasn't come back yet. It's fine. I'm just packing. I didn't take much documents, contracts, a few clothes. Approach. My mother left me and the original files from the safe. When I opened the safe, I saw our wedding photo sitting on the top shelf. In it, Zhu Yangguan had his arm around me, smiling cleanly. I stared for a few seconds, then flipped the photo over. Beneath it were the files, the pre-marital funding agreement, the equity proxy confirmation, the personal guarantee supplement, the early capital flow records of the Zhu Group, and a thick family ledger. From the first year of marriage to now, I recorded every major expense, Yerelin's villa, Zhu Yuan's tuition, the medical bills for Zhu Yaanyuan's father before he died, the renovation costs of the Zhu family estate, and the temporary relocation fees after when Ning returned. Back then, I kept the ledger to keep our life straight. Now, it's become my way out. I packed the files into a box. Just as I reached the living room, the door opened. Zhu Yangguan was back. His suit jacket was draped over his arm, his face etched with exhaustion and anger. When he saw the box in my hands, his expression darkened. Where are you going? I said, moving out. He closed the door. Caillou, hitting you tonight was wrong of me, but you're not blameless either. I looked at him. What did I do wrong? You shouldn't have targeted when Ning in that setting. I set the box down. Zhu Yangguan, I'll say it again. I didn't spill wine on her. He rubbed his brow. She had no reason to ruin her own dress. I said, so, I had a reason to ruin my own face. He was silent. A few seconds later, his tone softened. Let's move past this. Tomorrow, you put out a statement saying, our argument was just a misunderstanding. And go apologize to Wen Ning. I almost laughed. You hit me, and I have to apologize. Kai Wu the Zhu Group can't afford bad press right now. Then why didn't you think about that before you raised your hand? His eyes turned cold. Are you really going to dredge up the past? I nodded. Yes. I bent down and picked up the box again. Starting tonight, I'm going to dig up every single account. Zhu Yangguan blocked the door. Don't forget the Zhu Group's current valuation includes your share. If the company goes down, you won't come out clean either. I looked at him. You're wrong. The clearest thing I've learned in the past 10 years is which of Zhu's assets are real and which are bubbles I've been propping up. A crack finally appeared in his expression. I walked to the door. Move. He didn't budge. I took out my phone, dialed 1 Tang, and put it on speaker. Lawyer Wan. Mr. J won't let me leave the wedding house. W. Tang's voice came through calmly. Mr. Zhu, Ms. Caillou has already filed a medical examination report tonight. If you continue to restrict her from leaving, I'll advise her to call the police immediately. Jian's face darkened to an extreme. He stepped aside. I dragged my suitcase out as the elevator doors closed. I heard him say from outside, Caillou, you'll regret this. I looked at myself in the mirror. There was still a handprint on my face, but my eyes were steady. I murmured softly, the one who regrets won't be me. The next afternoon, Yolin called me personally. I didn't answer. She sent a string of voice messages. Kai Wu, have you grown wings? What's the big deal if Yangguan hit you? Married life has its bumps, doesn't it? You cut off the family funds and had the old estate's property management come after me. Are you trying to embarrass the Zhu family? Come back to the old house for dinner tonight and sort this out. Ning Ning will be there, too. Apologize to her and we'll let this slide. I listened, took screenshots, saved them, and forwarded them to Wu Tang. Wu Tang replied with one word. Good, she said. Many people oppress others not with a knife, but with the phrase, we're all family. But as long as words and voice recordings are kept, these aren't just emotions anymore. They become evidence. At 7:00 in the evening, I arrived at the Zhu family's old house. This old house was originally quite run down. In the 3rd year of our marriage, Yerelin said it wasn't decent to live in, and Zhu Yangguan, being filial, wanted to renovate it at that time. The company had just gotten through a funding round and cash flow was tight. So, I took 30 million from my pre-marriage account Yolin accepted the money with a warm smile. Kai Wu, you're so sensible. A woman once married is part of the family. Don't be so clear about boundaries. Later, when the house was renovated and relatives came to visit, Yerilyn told everyone, my son felt sorry for me and had it specially renovated. She never mentioned me once. I heard it at the time and just smiled, looking back. Now, that wasn't generosity. It was me lowering myself. The dining room was full. Yaolan sat at the head of the table. Zhu Yingguan sat to her right when Ning sat next to Zhu Yingguan, wearing a light blue sweater, her face pale as if she were the one who had been bullied last night. Her sister-in-law, Zhu Yuan, was also there as soon as she saw me. She rolled her eyes. Sister-in-law, you finally showed up. Do you know how embarrassed Mom was today? The property management even called me. I pulled out a chair and sat down paying. The property fees isn't my obligation. Zhu Yuan exploded. You've been married to my brother for years, eating and using the Zhu family's things. And now you say it's not your obligation. I looked at her. The sports car you bought last year. I paid the final installment. Her face stiffened. Yolin slammed her chopsticks hard on the table. Kai Wu, are you here to settle old scores today? I nodded. Yes. The dining room fell silent for a moment. Zhu Yingguan frowned. Kai Wu, don't go too far. I opened my bag and took out that ledger. Black cover, edges worn from use. I placed it on the table. Since everyone's here, let's settle the Zhu family's accounts tonight. When Ning said softly, Sister Kai Wu, family doesn't need to be like this, does it? I turned to her. Miss Wen, you're not part of the Zhu family. Her face went pale. Zhu Yingguan immediately looked at me. Why are you targeting her? I flipped open the first page of the ledger. First year of marriage. Initial payment for the Zhu family old house renovation. 30 million yuan. Paid by Kai Wu. Second page. Yolin's personal medical account. Annual fixed transfer of 2 million yuan for 8 years, totaling 16 million. Zhu Yuan study abroad expenses. Tuition, accommodation, living costs, and vehicle purchase total 148 million. Juan's face flushed red. You're lying. That money was given to me by my brother. I pulled out a copy of the bank transaction records and slid them in front of her. Do you recognize the account number at the end? Zhu Yuan glanced at it and fell silent. Yolin's expression shifted from anger to displeasure. Why are you keeping track of this? Are you guarding against us? I smiled. I'm just keeping accounts. After all, every time you asked for money, you said you'd pay it back later. Yaolan was choked off. Zhu Yingguan finally spoke. Enough. I looked at him. He took a document from beside him and placed it in front of me. Kai Wu, let's cool off for a while. If you insist on a divorce, fine, but the company can't have trouble right now. I looked down. The title of the document was clear. Divorce Agreement *. I flipped through 2 pages. Real estate goes to Zhu Yingguan. Du Corporation shares go to Zhu Yingguan. Marital debts are shared equally. I leave with nothing. I let out a laugh. Zhu Yingguan, you slap me in the face and then make me leave with nothing. He said, this is just a temporary plan. Once the company stabilizes, I'll compensate you. How familiar those words were. Wait for the company to stabilize. Wait for the project to end. Wait for the funding to come through. Wait for the IPO. I waited 10 years. I waited until he brought Wing back. Until I became someone he could sacrifice at will. I closed the agreement. I'm not signing. Yolin immediately screeched. Why won't you sign? Du Corporation is my son's life's work. And you still want to take a share. I pulled out another document. The initial seed funding for J Corporation came from my premarital assets. I placed the premarital capital contribution agreement on the table. The first 3 patent licenses for J Corporation were signed by me. I then took out the shareholding confirmation document and the so-called original shares of J Corporation that you're all talking about. 186% of them are held by Zhu Yingguan on my behalf. Zhu Yanyuan's face changed. He lowered his voice. Kaiyu, why are you bringing these out? I looked at him. Aren't you asking for a divorce? A divorce means settling things clearly. When Ning also panicked, She clearly didn't know any of this. In her eyes, I was probably just a jobless wife, a woman kept at home by Zhu Yingguan. She didn't know that when Zhu Yingguan was at his lowest, I was the one standing behind him. She didn't know that I wasn't someone who relied on marriage to survive. Zhu Yingguan stared at me, his eyes carrying a genuine warning for the first time. Kai Wu, do you know what going public with this means for J Corporation? I said, I do, and you still want to do it. I'm not trying to destroy J Corporation. I pushed the agreement to leave with nothing back to him. I'm just refusing to let you keep swallowing me up. Yolin's chest heaved with anger. Yingguan, look at her. This is the good wife you married. Zhu Yingguan closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his voice was cold and hard. How much do you want? I said calmly. I want what belongs to me. And I looked at him. I won't sign the annual bank guarantee renewal tomorrow. At these words, Zhu Yangwen's face darkened completely. Yaolan still didn't understand. What guarantee? Zhu Yangguan didn't answer her. He stared at me. Kai Wu, don't joke about the company. I stood up. I'm not joking. I put the ledger back into my bag. I'm just starting today by no longer taking on risks for a man who would hit me. When Ning suddenly stood up, tears falling. Sister Kai Wu, is it all because of me? If it is, I can leave the company. Please don't pressure Yingguan like this. I looked at her. When Ning, don't rush. She froze. I said, well, settle your account in the next chapter. The tears on her face froze midstream. I turned and walked away behind me. Zhu Yingguan didn't call my name for the first time. He must have finally realized I wasn't throwing a tantrum. I was pulling back, and he was already standing on the edge of a cliff on the morning of the third day. Zhu Yingguan came to find me in person. I was staying in an apartment Wen Tang had arranged for me. The doorbell rang for a long time. I saw him through the peephole, but didn't open the door. He sent me a message. The bank will be at the company at 10:00. You have to come. I replied, I'm not a Jew Corp employee. He answered quickly, you're the guarantor. I stared at those 4 words and laughed. He used to never mention this in front of others. Everyone said Zhu Yingguan built his business from scratch with sharp instincts and a firm hand. No one knew that he got his initial bank loan because I used my premarital assets and personal credit as collateral. Later, as the company grew, he became more reluctant to bring it up. It would tarnish his business legend. Now that he needed my signature, he suddenly remembered I was the guarantor. I changed into a black suit and went to J Corporation. The receptionist froze when she saw me. Madam, I said, call me Ms. Kai. Her face flushed, and she quickly pressed the elevator button when I walked into the top floor meeting room. It was packed. Bank representatives, legal team, finance director, several board members, and Zhu Yingguan. When Ning stood behind him holding documents, when she saw me, a flicker of unneeded her eyes. Zhu Yingguan pointed to a seat beside him. Sit. I didn't sit. I stood on the other side of the conference table. Where are the documents? The finance director slid a stack of materials toward me. Ms. Kai, this is the annual credit renewal confirmation. Same process as last year. You just need to sign on the last page. I flipped through it. The last page already had a tab and the signature line read my name. Kaiv. I stared at those 2 characters and suddenly remembered last year when I signed this document last year. Zhu Yingguan was out of town accompanying Wen Ning to an industry forum. He said, honey, thanks for the trouble. I'll make it up to you with a meal when I'm back. That meal never happened. I closed the document. I'm not signing. The room went silent. Instantly, the bank representative frowned. Ms. Kai, do you have objections to the terms? I pulled out a supplementary agreement. According to this agreement signed 3 years ago, if due core debt to asset ratio exceeds the agreed range, or if new external guarantees are made without my written disclosure, I have the right to unilaterally terminate subsequent joint guarantees. The bank representative took it, his expression turning serious. He flipped through a few pages and looked at Zhu Yingguan. Mr. Zhu, we haven't received this agreement before. Zhuanchuan's gaze was icy. It's an internal agreement between my wife and me. I said, but when you use my signature as external credit collateral, It's no longer an internal agreement. A board member asked in a low voice, Mr. J, what new guarantee is MS Kai referring to? I looked at the finance director last month. Corp provided an 80 million guarantee for when supply chain. There's no confirmation of my knowledge in the board minutes. When Ning's face turned pale when supply chain was her cousin's company. Zhu Yingguan once told me it was just an ordinary partner. Now it seemed too coincidental. The finance director's forehead was sweating. This was approved by Mr. Zhu. Zhu Yingguan said coldly, it was a business necessity. I nodded. Business necessity is fine, but you can't use my name as collateral. The bank representative looked at Zhu Yingguan. Mr. Zhu, if MS Kai terminates the guarantee, we'll need to reassess Zhu core credit. At those words, the atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. Several board members began exchanging glances. Zhu Yingguan suppressed his anger. Kai Wu, let's talk outside. I didn't move. Well, talk right here. His jaw tightened. Do you have to embarrass me? I countered. When you hit me at the banquet, did you ever think about how embarrassed I was? No one spoke when Ning said softly, Sister Kai Wu, this isn't the time for personal matters. The company has so many people here, all relying on the Zhu group to make a living. I looked at her. Then tell your cousin's company not to let the Zhu group be their guarantor. When Ning's face flushed red, I don't know about this. I pulled out a reimbursement form. You don't know. It was for the business entertainment expenses of the one family supply chain handler. When Ning approved Zhu Yingguan, I placed the paper on the table. Miss Wen, do you not know about the guarantee, or do you not know that someone has to foot the bill for all this money in the end? She bit her lip, tears threatening to spill again. Zhu Yingguan stood up. Kai Wu, that's enough. I looked at him. Not yet. I took out a second document from my bag. Also, I'm formally notifying the Zhu group that starting today, you are prohibited from using the 3 patents I authorized before marriage as financing materials. Whether to renew the authorization will be discussed after the divorce property settlement is complete. The bank representative's face grew darker. The board members couldn't sit still. Someone asked, President J, aren't those 3 patents company-owned assets? I said, no. I looked at that board member back when the company was strapped for cash to facilitate financing. I authorized the Zhu group to use them. The authorization period was 5 years renewed annually after expiration. Last year's renewal document was sent to me by President Zhu via email for my signature. This year, I'm not renewing J. Yingguan finally showed a hint of panic. Faint, but I saw it. He lowered his voice. Kai Wu, don't bring marital conflicts into the company. I smiled. Zhu Yingguan, when you needed my signature, I was the guarantor. When you don't need me to speak, I'm the one bringing marital conflicts into the company. His face turned ugly. I picked up my bag. I've said my piece for the follow-up documents. Please send them to my lawyer. I turned to leave at the entrance of the meeting room. Yuji stood there. She was the secretary to the board of the Zhu group. A long time ago, when she was just an intern, she had seen me staying up late in the meeting room, revising financing materials. Later, when I stepped back, she had always been polite to me. She looked at me and gave a slight nod. I nodded back. As I walked out of the meeting room, I heard an argument erupt inside. The bank representative demanded a new due diligence. The board members demanded Zhu Yingguan explained the Wen family guarantee. The CFO said cash flow pressure was high. Zhu Yingyuan's voice was very low. When Ning cried, saying she didn't know I stood in the elevator and pressed the button for the first floor, my phone buzzed. Yuji sent a message. Ms. Kai, regarding the authorization documents you mentioned, I have the meeting minutes from over the years here. If needed, I can provide them to your lawyer as per regulations. I replied, thank you. Follow the procedure. She replied, you're finally back. Looking at those words, my eyes suddenly felt a little hot. Not because of Zhu Yingguan, but because I finally remembered that I too used to be someone who could stand in front of a conference table. I wasn't just the long-suffering Mrs. Zhu. I was Kai Wu. The elevator doors opened in the lobby. The giant poster for the Zhu group's 10th anniversary hadn't been taken down yet. Zhu Yingguan stood in the center of the poster, full of ambition. The slogan read, "Walking together for 10 years, heading toward the next glory." I paused for a second, then I walked out. That was his glory. It wasn't mine anymore. Ru Tang's law firm was by the river. At 3:00 in the afternoon, sunlight streamed into the meeting room. The table was covered with documents. Wan Tang sorted the reimbursement forms related to Wen Ning into 3 piles. First pile, normal job-related reimbursements. She patted the thinnest stack. Second pile, clearly exceeding job authority. The middle stack was thick. Third pile, heavily overlapping with personal life. The last stack was the thickest. I picked up one of them, a foreign hotel suite occupant. Wen Ning, the companion column, was left blank. Approver Zhu Yingguan remarks business reception. Yet on the same day, Zhu Yingguan told me he was in an overseas, closed-door meeting. Too busy to take my calls. I flipped to another page. Custom jewelry purpose gift for a partner recipient. When Ning, I'd seen her wear that necklace. Then there was formal wear rental, a private driver, apartment soft furnishings, designer bags, a beauty spa. The amounts weren't particularly outrageous, but stacked one after another. They were enough to turn my stomach. Wan Tang said, "Those aren't the whole problem. The real trouble is that some of the money went through your personal account." I looked up. She slid a sheet toward me. "Zhu Yingguan had you front the rent and renovation costs for Wen Ning's apartment, plus some so-called temporary travel subsidies. The notes are vague, but the chat logs match up." I opened my old phone. I'd kept it all along. It was full of messages from Zhu Yingguan. "When Ning just got back, help her with the rent first. I'll reimburse you through the company later. Ning's not well. Cover the driver's fees from your end. Don't let a girl struggle too much. Honey, you're the most understanding. Don't make a fuss with her." Back then, reading these, I just felt a knot in my chest. But I told myself, Zhu Yingguan wasn't that kind of person. He was just sentimental. He was just stressed. He just saw Wen Ning is an old friend. Now I see. It wasn't that he was good at lying. It was that I was too good at making excuses for him. Wan Tang said, "This money can be used as evidence of marital asset transfer. Also, after you were hit, when he made you issue that statement, keep those messages, too." I nodded. She glanced at me. "You're handling this better than I expected." I said, "Maybe I'm past the point of hurting." It was true before that slap landed. I still had illusions. I thought Zhu Yingguan was just blinded by Wen Ning. I thought he still cared about me. But that slap shattered every last one. The worst state is half awake. Once you're fully awake, it doesn't hurt anymore. At 5:00 in the afternoon, Zhu Yingguan called. I didn't answer. He sent a message. "You're auditing Wen Ning's accounts." I replied, "I'm auditing my money." He shot back, "This will destroy her." I stared at that line, and the last shred of warmth inside me died. I typed, "When she was spending my money, why weren't you afraid of destroying me?" He didn't reply. Half an hour later, when Ning posted on Moments, the picture showed a hand within 4 drip. The caption read, "Some misunderstandings I won't explain. The clear will see clearly. I just hope no more innocent people get hurt because of me." Beneath it, comments poured in. "Nink nink. Don't cry. Mrs. J is really going too far. The wife making a scene is just ugly to watch." Zhu Yuan liked it. Yaolan liked it, too. I stared at that post for a few seconds. Ran Tang asked, "Want to respond?" I shook my head. Not now. When Ning's specialty was playing the victim, the more I defended myself, the more she'd look like I was bullying her. What I needed to do wasn't fight her with words. I needed to let the numbers speak. That evening, Yuji sent me a compressed file. Inside was a directory of meeting minutes from past years. She didn't overstep by giving me internal materials, just listed the file numbers. Available for external access with application procedures noted. Very professional, very clean. I forwarded it to Wu Tang. W. Tang replied, "That's enough. Send the lawyer's letter tomorrow." The next morning, the finance department at J Corporation received the lawyer's letter. It demanded an audit of all expenses fronted from Kaya's personal account during Wen Ning's tenure. It demanded an immediate halt to any expenditures authorized under the name Mrs. D. It demanded the preservation of all related approval documents within 10 minutes of the letter being sent. Zhu Yingguan called. I answered. His voice was icy. Kai Wu, do you have to take this all the way? I stood by the window. I'm just taking back what's mine. Are you short of this money? I laughed so she can spend it. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Then he said, when Ning has been depressed, don't push her. My grip on the phone tightened. Zhu Yingguan, you hit me, and you're worried about whether she'll be pushed. Kai Wu, don't bother saying my name. I stared out the window. You'd better remind her to return what she shouldn't have taken. He said, and if I don't? I said, then we'll see you in court. He hung up that evening. When Ning posted another update on her moments. No text this time, just a photo of a charity gala invitation. She deliberately revealed the names on it. Mr. Zhu Yingguan and Ms. When Ning, I stared at those words. Ru Tang saw it too. She sneered. Is she trying to go public and take your place? I said, no, she's trying to make me lose it in public. The charity gala was Du Corp's most important image building event of the year for the past 5 years. I drafted all the donation plans, where the money came from, whose name it was under, which organizations were reliable, which projects could be tracked long-term. I'd vetted every detail. Zhu Yingguan just showed up on stage. The public thought he was passionate about charity, but he couldn't even remember which city the aid projects were in this year. When Ning wanted to take my seat, she thought it was an honor, but she didn't know that under the chair there was nothing but debts. I pulled out my phone and messaged the foundation director. Send me this year's authorization documents for the Jup Charity Fund. He replied quickly. Ms. Kai, the Ju Corp office submitted a change request this year to replace the cosigner with MS. When Ning, we haven't approved it yet, and we're about to confirm with you. I smiled. Don't approve it. Also, suspend all donations. I've personally advanced under my name this year. He was surprised. Ms. Kai, are you sure? I typed 2 words. I'm sure the river outside the window was still. I knew the next act was about to begin. When Ning wanted to step on me to secure her place at the charity gala, let her see whose path she was really treading on the day of the charity gala. Zhu Yingguan didn't pick me up. He probably thought I wouldn't go, or rather, he hoped I wouldn't, but I was determined to go. At 8:00 in the evening, I wore a black long dress and walked into the venue alone at the entrance. By the sign-in board, there were many reporters. When Ning was posing for photos, holding Juyan's arm, she wore a white gown, hair makeup delicate, and around her neck was that corporate gift necklace. The light fell on her, and she smiled gently. Someone whispered, "Is that the CEO's special assistant?" I heard. She's been accompanying him to a lot of events lately. And his wife, isn't she filing for divorce? When Ning heard it, a hint of smugness flickering in her eyes, she looked up, saw me, and her smile froze. Zhu Yingguan saw me too. He let go of Wen Ning's hand and walked toward me. "What are you doing here?" I said. "I received an invitation." He lowered his voice. "Cool. Don't cause a scene tonight." I looked at him. "When you talk to me now, it's always those 2 words. Don't cause a scene. As if all my justified pain, anger, and retaliation are just scenes to you." When Ning walked over and said softly, "Sister Kai Wu, don't misunderstand. I'm only here tonight representing Ju Corp's charity projects." I glanced at the necklace around her neck, representing charity with personal jewelry. Her face turned pale. Zhu Yingguan frowned. "Kai Wu." I ignored him and walked straight inside after the gala began. The host came on stage to introduce the annual donation projects on the big screen. Du Corp's promotional video played. Children, schools, hospitals, mountain areas, scholarships. The images were warm, the music touching. Zhu Yingguan sat in the front row, his demeanor steady. When Ning sat beside him like the future mistress of the house. Yao Lan sat nearby with just relatives. When she saw me, she snorted coldly. "You actually have the nerve to show up." Zhu Yuan chimed in. "Sister-in-law, I suggest you behave tonight. This isn't a place for you to throw a tantrum." I picked up my water glass and took a sip. "Don't worry, I won't throw a tantrum. I'm just here to settle accounts. When the host announced the annual public welfare donor, his voice grew especially impassioned. Next, let's welcome Mr. Zhu Yingguan, Chairman and CEO of J Group and MS. Wen Ning, representative of Zhu's Public Welfare Project, to the stage. Applause erupted. Wen Ning stood up, her dress sweeping across the floor. As she walked to the stage, she glanced back at me. That glance was light, but it carried provocation. Zhu Yingguan also stepped onto the stage. The host handed them a symbolic donation plaque with the amount 200 million. The applause grew louder when Ning took the microphone. Her voice soft. Public welfare has always been Zhu Group's core commitment. Mr. Zhu often says that as a company grows, it must not forget its social responsibility. I'm honored to be part of such a project. After speaking, she looked at Zhu Yingguan, her eyes full of admiration. Some in the audience applauded. She really played her part well. If I hadn't known how every donation over the past 5 years was made, I might have believed it too. The host continued, we also want to thank the family behind J Group, who has been silently contributing. The camera suddenly panned to me, and my face appeared on the big screen. There was a moment of commotion in the venue when Ning's hand gripping the microphone tightened. Zhu Yingguan frowned. The host clearly read from a new script special. Thanks to MS Kai Wu, over the past 5 years, Junior Group's Public Welfare Fund has been primarily co-initiated under MS Kai's personal name, and she has long been responsible for project selection, fund supervision, and follow-up visits. When Ning's expression changed, Zhu Yangchuan turned to look at the staff. The host continued, however, just before tonight's event began, the foundation received an official notice from MS Kai due to Zhu Group's unauthorized application to change the co-signatory and failure to provide a complete explanation of fund sources. The donation amount originally scheduled to be advanced under MS Kai's name this year will be suspended. The entire venue fell silent. The amount on the big screen still read 200 million, like a massive joke. Zhu Yaanyuan's face turned ashen when Ning froze on stage. The host was clearly embarrassed, but had to continue. The foundation stated that J Group can still complete the donation process on its own. Translated, that meant Caillou won't pay for J Group anymore. You'll have to foot the bill yourselves. Whispers began to spread in the audience. What does this mean? It was Mrs. J who paid before, so when Mr. Zhu accepted the award every year. When Ning sounded so touching just now, but the money hasn't even been secured. Yolan couldn't sit still. She strode over to me, lowering her voice as she cursed. Kai Wu, are you crazy? You're making Yingguan lose face in front of everyone. I looked up. The money is mine, and I have the right to suspend it once you marry into the Zhu family. Your money is the Zhu family's. I set down my water glass. Ms. Yarrow during the divorce proceedings. Please watch your words. Yolan trembled with rage. Zhu Yuan also rushed over. You're just jealous of sister. Wen Ning, you can't stand seeing a younger, prettier woman by my brother's side. I looked at her. Zhu Yuan, the beauty card I paid for last month. I've also suspended it. Her voice cut off abruptly. The relatives nearby looked at her differently. Zhuin's face instantly flushed red. I stood up. If any of you think I'm being petty, feel free to chip in and cover the 200 million for J Group yourselves. No one spoke on stage. Zhu Yingguan had already come down. He walked up to me, his voice low and menacing. Did you plan this in advance? I said, I'm just refusing to let you keep using my name without permission. You're forcing me to this point. I looked at him. Zhu Yingguan, you're the one who forced me here. When Ning walked down as well, her eyes were red. Kai Wu, tonight is crucial for the Zhu Group. Why do you have to do this? I looked at the necklace around her neck. Is that necklace pretty? She froze. I said, the reimbursement slip says it's a gift for a partner. If it's a gift, why is it around your neck? The air around us went dead silent when Ning instinctively covered the necklace. Juanyuan's face darkened. Even more. Caillou, don't bring this up here. I pulled a photocopy from my bag. You approved it. I handed it to him. Nice signature. Zhu Yangguan didn't take it when Ning's tears finally fell. I don't know how that got reimbursed. Maybe the admin made a mistake. I nodded, then let the admin explain. I turned to the foundation director. Sorry for the trouble tonight. I'll continue my personal charity projects separately from now on, no longer tied to the Jew group. The director nodded immediately. Ms. Kai, we respect your decision. At those words, Zhu Yanchuan's face completely fell because it meant even the foundation knew who was really getting things done. The banquet ended early. The reporters didn't swarm Zhu Yingguan. They were all waiting for his explanation. As I walked out of the hotel, Zhu Yingguan chased after me. Kai Wu! I stopped. He stood on the steps, his eyes burning with anger and panic. What do you want? I said. A divorce. He stared at me. Anything but divorce. I shook my head. There's no anything but. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, You weren't like this before. I smiled. Before I loved you. The wind blew a little cold. I looked at him, word by word. Now I don't. His face went pale for a moment. I turned and got into the car just before the door closed. I saw Wen Ning standing at the hotel entrance. She wasn't crying anymore. The way she looked at Zhu Yingguan for the first time had panic mixed in with her scheming. She must have realized it too. A Zhu Yingguan without Kawu to back him up wasn't as solid as she thought. 7 days after I moved out, Zhu Yingguan returned to our wedding home. That's what the housekeeper told me later. She said he remarked. The place felt empty. Half the walk-in closet was gone. The safe in the study was empty, too. He stood at the master bedroom door for a long time and finally just picked up the wedding photo from the nightstand. The housekeeper said he asked her, Did the missus leave any message? She said, No, actually. I did leave something in the study drawer. A lawyer's letter, a wedding ring, and a piece of paper with just one sentence. Zhu Yingguan, don't try to borrow a future from me using old feelings. That night, he came to find me. I had just gotten back from the law firm. As I drove into the underground garage, I saw him standing by the elevator. He was wearing a dark gray coat, his face etched with exhaustion. He rarely waited for me like this before. I was always the one waiting for him to finish a meeting, waiting for him to come back from a business dinner, waiting for him to spare a moment from Wen Ning to remember me. Now it was his turn to wait, but I no longer needed it. I parked the car, grabbed my bag, and got out. He walked over. Caillou, let's talk. I said, talk to my lawyer. He blocked my way. Do we really have to end up like this? I looked at him. You started it. He closed his eyes. I lost control that day. I'm sorry. That apology came too late, and it was too late. I said, I don't accept it. His Adam's apple bobbed. You weren't like this before. You weren't hitting me before. He was silent. The lights in the underground garage were harsh and white. They highlighted the dark circles under his eyes. The pressure on the Jew group must have been heavy lately. Bank review, fund suspension, board inquiries, Wen Ning's bills, and divorce proceedings in the past. I shielded him from all of this. Now I'm gone. He finally feels the sting. But this isn't love. It's the sense of loss. He said, Caillou, I admit I've neglected you these past few years. I can handle the Wen Ning matter. Come back and we'll start over. I almost laughed. How do you plan to handle it? He immediately replied, I can transfer her out of the president's office. Just to transfer. She's been with the company for so long. I can't just fire her abruptly. I nodded. So, you're still protecting her? He frowned. It's not protection. It's handling things by the book. I looked at him. Zhu Yingguan, you won't even pay a price to coax me. That sentence stung him. Kai Wu, you can't expect me to ruin an employee's career over a marital dispute. So, you can ruin my dignity over a single sentence from her. He fell silent. I walked around him toward the elevator. He suddenly said, You filed for asset preservation. I stopped. Of course. Everything before was just a lead-up. This was his real purpose. I turned around. Yes, you've frozen some of my shares and accounts. The court is handling it according to the law. His gaze turned cold. Kai Wu J Corporation's cash flow is tight right now. Doing this will make things even harder for the company. I said the preservation I applied for target's assets suspected of being transferred during the marriage, not due corporation's normal operating accounts. But the public won't see it that way. That's your problem. He finally lost his composure. Are you determined to destroy me? I looked at him. He's asked this question many times, as if his failures were all my fault for not continuing to endure. I took a step closer. Zhu Yingguan, I'm not destroying you. I'm just taking back my money, my credit, and my name from you. His eyes widened in shock. I continued, if you can't stand without those, it means you are always standing on me. That sentence made his face turn an ugly shade. The elevator arrived. I held the door open. Also the source of the down payment for the apartment under Wen Ning's name has been traced. His expression shifted noticeably. I knew he understood that money came from our joint marital account. He thought that by routing it through 2 layers of company reimbursement and personal advances, no one would find out, but money flows and it always leaves a trail. I said the court will ask the elevator doors closed. I saw Zhu Yingguan standing outside for the first time, not chasing after me. The next day, Wu Tang told me that Zhu Yuan's side had submitted a mediation proposal. He said he was willing to compensate me with 50 million. The conditions were to withdraw the asset preservation, stop investigating Wen Ning's bills, and not make the guarantee release public. Wang asked me, how should I respond? I said, no mediation. Wang smiled. I knew it. I looked down at the documents. 50 million, a huge sum of money. But the risks I've taken for Zhu Yingguan over the years can no longer be erased by 50 million. More importantly, I don't want compensation. I want a settlement in the afternoon. Yolin came to my door with Zhu Yuan. They didn't know where I lived. They followed Zhu Yingguan. When the doorbell rang, I saw 3 faces on the video screen. Yao Lan was furious. Zhu Yuan looked impatient when Ning was also there standing in the back as if she had been forced to come. I opened the door chain just a crack. Yolin started cursing. Caillou, do you have any conscience? Yingguan hasn't been able to sleep properly for days because of the company, and here you are hiding and scheming against him. I said, did I ask him to hit me? Yao Lan was choked. Zhu Yuan interjected, don't keep bringing up that slap. My brother already apologized. What more do you want? I looked at her. If your boyfriend hit you in public, would you tell yourself the same thing? Zhu Yuan's face changed color. Don't jinx me. When Ning suddenly stepped forward. Sister Kai Wu, I came today to return the necklace to you. She took out a box. The necklace lay inside. I really didn't know about the reimbursement. When Yang Chuan gave it to me, he said it was an extra gift from a partner. I didn't expect it to cause a misunderstanding. I looked at her. A misunderstanding. Her tears welled up again. If you don't like it, I won't wear it anymore. I didn't take it. Give it to the lawyer. She froze. Zhu Yang Chuan stood at the end of the hallway and finally spoke. Kai Wu, don't make things awkward for everyone. I looked at him through the crack in the door. The most awkward I've ever looked wasn't that you're doing. The hallway fell silent. A neighbor's door cracked open. Someone peeking out. Yolin hated losing face the most. She immediately lowered her voice. Caillou, let us in first. I said, not convenient. Then I closed the door a few seconds later. Yerilyn's furious voice came from outside. She's lost it. She's really lost it. I leaned against the door. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just opened my phone and saved the visitor log automatically generated by the video doorbell from moments ago. It wasn't a recording or a hidden surveillance feed, just the normal log from the property's doorbell showing the time of visit and the people on camera. Wen Tang said, when necessary, it could prove harassment. I sent the file to her. She replied, good, keep maintaining the boundary. Boundary. I learned those 2 words too late, but thankfully not too late. The Zhu Corporation's trouble came a week later. First, several suppliers showed up at the door. The reason was simple. Zhu Corporation had defaulted on final payments beyond what the contract allowed. They'd originally promised to settle by the end of the month, but the finance department suddenly requested a delay. If it were just one delay, the suppliers wouldn't have kicked up a fuss, but they heard the bank's credit review had been suspended. and panic set in soon. A crowd gathered under the Jew Corporation building. Some held up contracts, others called the media, and a few shouted, "A company this big, they can't be planning to Welsh, can they?" This hit the local financial hot list. Zhu Yongchuan didn't step forward right away. He had PR issue a statement saying the company was operating normally, and a few suppliers were exaggerating maliciously. But within 2 hours of that statement, the bank's meeting notice arrived. W. Tang forwarded the news to me. "You need to go tomorrow, too. The bank wants to confirm the guarantee release and the boundary of historical liability." I said, "Okay." The next morning, I went to the bank in the meeting room. Zhu Yongchuan was already there. He looked like he hadn't slept all night. When Ning wasn't there, the finance director sat beside him, flipping through documents with his head down. The bank's risk control officer was named Luo. She was sharp and got straight to the point. "Ms. Kai, we need to confirm 2 things today. First, whether you have formally released your subsequent joint guarantee. Second, whether you acknowledge the relevant guarantee documents submitted under your name by Due Corporation in the past year." I said, "First, confirmed release. The release notice has been served through my lawyer." Manager Luo nodded. "And the second," I looked at the documents on the table. Inside were 2 renewal explanations with my name signed on them, but I knew very well I hadn't signed them. I picked them up, studied them for a few seconds. "This isn't my signature." The meeting room went quiet. Jay Yinga's face changed. The finance director's head shot up. Manager Luo frowned. "Ms. Kai, please confirm." I said, "Confirmed." Zhu Yongchuan immediately spoke. "That was an electronic process authorization. Maybe an assistant handled it on behalf." "President Zhu," I cut him off. "I never authorized anyone to sign guarantee documents on my behalf." Manager Luo turned to Zhu Yingguan. "President Zhu, this is a serious issue." Zhu Yongchuan's hands were under the table, his knuckles white. He stared at me. That look wasn't a plea for mercy. It was a warning in the past. When he looked at me like that, I would soften. I would cover for him. I'd say, maybe I forgot. Maybe there was a procedural misunderstanding. Maybe I had agreed. But now I only state the facts. I didn't sign. Manager Luo had the staff pull up the process records. The handler showed when Ning the approver, Zhu Yingguan the finance director's sweat slid down his temples. He muttered at the time. President Zhu said Ms. Kai had given verbal consent. I laughed. Verbal consent. That phrase again. The Zhu family had taken so much from me, all relying on she'll agree. My money, my time, my dignity, my credit, now even my signature. They wanted to take it that way. Manager Luo, close the file until the facts are confirmed. Our bank will suspend the relevant credit usage and initiate an internal risk review. Those words were like a knife, cutting straight into J Corporation's cash flow. Dianguan finally couldn't sit still. Manager Luo, J Corporation, currently has several key projects in progress. Suspending credit will trigger a chain reaction. Manager Luo remained calm. President Zhu submitting guarantee documents that are forged or unauthorized is itself a major risk. Zhu Yingguan said nothing more as I left the bank. He caught up to me. Kai Wu. I stopped. His voice was, "Do you know the consequences of what you just said?" I said yes. Due Corporation might have its capital chain broken because of this. But that's not because I told the truth. I turned to face him. It's because you've been propping things up with fakes for too long. His face turned ashen. I didn't forge your signature. I said, then let the process investigate. He was silent. I looked at him. Zhu Yingguan, you weren't like this before. This time I was the one saying that line. His eyes flickered. I continued, you were poor before, but at least you had pride. Now you have Due Corporation, status, dignity, and you've started to think everyone else's bottom line can be a stepping stone for your climb. He opened his mouth, but couldn't speak. His phone rang. It was Wen Ning. He glanced at it, but didn't answer. I smiled. Answer it. You need comfort the most right now. With that, I got into my car that afternoon. Turmoil began within Due Corporation. Suppliers demanded payment. The bank suspended credit and the board demanded Zhu Yingguan explain the guarantee documents. Financial media started digging into J Corporation's expansion issues over the past 2 years. Online, people connected the charity gala incident and the slap. So, the slap wasn't just on an ordinary ex-wife, but on the credit pillar behind Jew Corporation, eating off your wife's goodwill and then hitting her. So pathetic. No wonder the divorce case is called the billion-dollar divorce. There's so much beneath the surface. Juenyuan's business myth began to crack. And when Ning began to disappear, she stopped posting on social media, stopped playing the victim, and didn't even show up at the company. Yuji sent me a message. When Ning took leave, said she's not feeling well. I replied, got it. One Tang said, she's not sick, she's getting ready to run. Sure enough, the next day when Ning was photographed entering another investment firm's office building, she was going for an interview. Zhu Yingguan was still cleaning up her mess, and she was already looking for her next move. When that photo reached Jian's phone, he was being grilled at a board meeting. According to Yuji, his face turned deathly pale on the spot, not because of heartbreak, but because he finally realized that the things he had thrown away for Wenning, she wouldn't bear them with him. That night, Zhu Yingguan sent me a very long message. He said he was wrong. He said he would handle the Wenning matter. He said he had just been under too much pressure, which was why he had become less and less like himself. He said if I was willing, he could make a public apology. I read it. I didn't reply. Half an hour later, he sent another. Kai Wu, I can't live without you. I stared at those words. 10 years ago, I might have cried. 5 years ago, I might have softened. 1 year ago, I might have given him a chance. But now, I only find it ironic. He can't live without me. He can't live without the person who signed for him, paid for him, swallowed her pride, and held up the Zhu family's dignity. But that person died the night of the celebration banquet. Under that slap, the day of the court mediation, the weather was beautiful. I arrived early. W. Tang sat beside me, flipping through documents. They'll probably play the emotional card today, she said. I figured. I replied. W. Tang added, or they might play the deck card. Figured that, too. She smiled. So, are you ready? I nodded. Ready. 10 minutes later, Zhu Yingguan arrived. He was wearing a black suit. He looked thinner than before. Yolin came too. She wasn't supposed to be in the mediation room, but she cried at the door, saying her heart was bad and she had to be present for her son's divorce. The mediator finally let her sit in. When Ning didn't show up after being suspended and investigated by J Corporation, she didn't dare to appear publicly. The mediator started with the principals. Both parties have been married for many years, involving significant assets. It's recommended to communicate rationally. Zhu Yingguan looked at me. Kai Wu, I agree to the divorce. Yalin's head snapped toward him. Yingguan. Zhu Yingguan ignored her. He continued, but Zhu Corporation is in a special period right now. The equity and debt issues need to be handled later. Withdraw the preservation order first, and I'll give you compensation. I asked, how much? 500 million. Yerlin's face changed. Yingguan, are you crazy? Zhu Yingguan stared at me. That's enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. I laughed. President Zhu, do you still think what I want is an allowance? His eyes darkened. W. Tang pushed the documents over. We demand the division of marital property, recognition of MS Ka's premarital investment rights, confirmation that unauthorized guarantees are invalid, and investigation into marital asset transfers. Zhu Yanyuan's lawyer frowned. Ms. Kai's so-called marital asset transfers currently lack sufficient evidence. Wan Tang pushed another bank statement over the down payment for Wenning's apartment. 12 million yuan. 7 million came from Mr. J's joint marital account. 3 million was advanced from MS Kai's personal account and never repaid. And the remaining 2 million came from J Corporation special budget. The mediation room fell silent. Zhu Yanyuan's lawyer's face changed too. Yolin slammed the table. That SS impossible. Yingguan, you bought a house for that woman. Zhu Yenyuan's face darkened. Mom, don't talk. Yolin refused. Didn't she say she was just an assistant? Since when does an assistant need you to buy her a house? I watched Yolin. She finally felt the pain, not because I was betrayed, but because Zhu family money had flowed into another woman's pocket. The mediator looked at Zhu Yingguan. Mr. Zhu, are these funds accurate? Zhu Yingguan was silent. His lawyer spoke for him. Part of the funds were in the nature of a loan. Wu Tang asked, "Where's the loan contract?" The other side didn't answer. Wang continued, "Where are the repayment records?" Still no answer. I pulled a printed copy of a WeChat chat from my bag. It was what Zhu Yingguan had sent me back then. Pay for Ning Ning's apartment first. It's not safe for a girl like her to rent outside. Don't tell Mom about this. She'll overthink. Honey, you understand. I pushed the paper over. This is what he called a loan. After Yerlin read it, her face turned a mix of pale and green. She suddenly looked at Zhu Yingguan. You used Kai's money to buy a house for when Zhu Yingguan closed his eyes. At that moment, I felt no satisfaction, only a belated sense of absurdity. Yolin used to call me unreasonable, jealous, and intolerant of Wen Ning, but when the truth was laid out before her, she didn't feel wronged for me. She only felt sorry for the Zhu family's assets. The mediator cleared their throat. Both sides calmed down. Zhu Yingguan finally spoke. Kai Wu, I can make up this money to you, I said, and the rest. He looked up. What? The guarantee for the Wen family supply chain, Wen Ning's personal reimbursements, the money your mother and sister have been drawing from my account over the years. The guarantee documents you submitted in my name. I listed them one by one. Are you going to make up for those two? His face darkened inch by inch. Are you really going to push me like this? Zhu Yingguan, I'm just reciting what you did and you already feel pushed. His eyes reened. We have 10 years of history. Don't you care at all? I looked at him. I did care the first time you covered for Wen Ning. I let it slide. The first time you forgot my birthday because of her. I let it slide. The first time you made me apologize to your mother. I let it slide. The first time you had me sign a guarantee renewal. I signed it too. I paused. Zhu Yingguan, I've held on to the past too many times. So many that you thought I had no limits. His Adam's apple bobbed. Kai Wu, I cut him off. After that slap, there's no more old feelings. The mediation room was so quiet that only the rustling of papers could be heard. Just then, a knock came at the door. A staff member entered and handed the mediator a supplementary document. When Ning had submitted a written statement, she didn't come herself, but she had neatly washed her hands of it. The statement said the down payment for the apartment was a gift from Zhu Yingguan, and she was unaware of the source of the funds. Reimbursements were approved by Zhu Yingguan, and she had only followed the procedure. The Wen family supply chain guarantee was a business partnership unrelated to her personally. Every sentence shifted the blame onto Zhu Yingguan. Yolin finished reading, her hands trembling with rage. That how dare she? Zhu Yingguan stared at the statement, his face pale as a ghost. He had shielded Wen Ning for so long, and in return she had thrown him under the bus without a second thought. I watched him. This wasn't something I orchestrated. This was just how things were between them. People who come together for gain will also part ways for it. The mediation failed as I walked out of the courthouse. Yolind suddenly caught up to me. She grabbed my arm. Caillou, I know I wasn't good to you before, but you and Yingguan were husband and wife after all. That woman, when Ning has shown her true colors, just give Yingguan one more chance. I looked at her hand, gripping my arm. She had never spoken to me so humbly before. She only ever commanded me, save face for the Zhu family, make way for Yingguan, give Ning Ning some space. Now she was saying, give Yingguan a chance. I gently pulled my hand back. EMS Yao, didn't you think it was nothing when he hit me? Her face froze. I said, then let him face the consequences of that nothing. I walked down the steps. Zhu Yingguan stood by his car watching me. He wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't because he knew no amount of words could bring it back. Zhu Yingguan holding a press conference caught me off guard. Or rather, I didn't think he'd be stupid enough to do it. The day before the conference, His PR team leaked the news. The Jew group would officially address recent rumors. The public expected him to explain the credit lines, the suppliers, and the divorce case. One Tang saw the preview and frowned. He might try to pin the blame on you. I said, let him try. The next afternoon, the press conference went live. I didn't go to the scene. I sat in the law firm's conference room, watching the live stream with Wu Tang on the screen. Zhu Yingguan sat on the stage. The backdrop bore the Jew Group logo. He looked haggard, but still maintained a veneer of composure at first. He talked about the company's normal operations. The supplier issue was just a short-term communication hiccup. The bank review was a routine procedure. When the reporter asked about the divorce case, he was silent for a few seconds. Then he said, I'd rather not discuss personal feelings too much. But I must clarify that the recent series of risks Jews Group has faced are related to the marital dispute between MS Kai Wu and me. Wan Tang sneered. Here it comes. The reporter immediately pressed on. Mr. Jew, are you implying that Ms. Kai deliberately harmed Just Group's operations? Zhu Yingguan didn't admit it directly. He was smart. He said, I believe she didn't mean harm, but under emotional duress. She made some less than rational decisions. Less than rational. I looked the screen and suddenly laughed. Men are best at framing a woman's retaliation as emotion. My demand for divorce was emotion. My cancellation of guarantees was emotion. My pursuit of assets was emotion. Him hitting me was stress. Him transferring assets was helping a friend. Him submitting guarantee documents without authorization was a procedural misunderstanding. How fair, Jew, Yingguan continued. I hope the public can give us some space, and I hope Q can return to the track of rational communication. After all, we were married for 10 years, and I never intended to hurt her. Wang turned off the live stream audio directly. Send the lawyer statement. I said, send it. 5 minutes later, Wan Tang's team released the statement. It wasn't long, just listing the facts. First, MS Kai Wu has completed injury verification and filing regarding being slapped by Mr. Zhu Yingguan in a public setting. Second, MS Kai Wu has legally terminated subsequent guarantees with the relevant termination clauses already clearly stipulated in the agreement. Third, MS Kai Wu never authorized anyone to sign guarantee documents on her behalf. Fourth, matters concerning the transfer of marital joint property, special reimbursements, and related party guarantees have entered legal proceedings. Fifth, MS Kai Wu reserves the right to pursue related responsibilities. After the statement was released, the live stream exploded. A reporter immediately asked Zhu Yingguan on the spot, Mr. Zhu, Ms. Kai claims you slapped her in public. Is that true? Zhu Yanyuan's face stiffened. This is a private matter. MS Kai claims someone signed guarantee documents without authorization. Is the handler when Ning Zhu Yingguan didn't answer? Is MS when Ning still employed at Zhu's group? Zhu Yingguan gripped the microphone tightly. The scene grew increasingly chaotic. Just then, Zhu's board of directors issued an internal announcement. Zhu Yingguan was temporarily suspended from his CEO position pending a company risk review. The live stream camera was still rolling when reporters received the push notification. Someone shouted on the spot, Mr. Zhu, the board just announced your suspension. Were you aware? The color drained from Zhuanchuan's face bit by bit. This scene was seen by the entire internet. The once lofty young CEO was suspended by the board at his own press conference. His dignity was shattered completely. W. Tang watched the screen. Feel good. I thought about it. Not really. She looked at me. I said, I just feel like things are finally a bit fair. Zhu Yingguan didn't fall because of a single word from me. He was consumed by the debts, lies, and arrogance he had suppressed for so long. After the press conference, Zhu's group stock price plummeted. Suppliers filed lawsuits. The risk of banks calling in loans intensified when supply chain was also implicated in the investigation when Ning was completely exposed. Online, her past delicate social media posts were dug up. People compared timelines and found that every time she played the victim, it coincided with Caillou being oppressed by the Jew family, the charity gala necklace, the apartment down payment, the special budget, the related party guarantees. Netson's comments were harsh. I didn't read too much. I didn't need others' insults to prove I had been hurt. At 10:00 in the evening, Zhu Yangguan appeared downstairs at my apartment. The property management called me. Ms. Kaya, Mr. Zhu says he wants to see you. I said number 10 minutes later. He sent me a message. I'm downstairs. I replied, please leave. He sent Kai Wu. I really know I was wrong. I didn't respond. He sent another. I've already let Wen Ning go, and I'll recover the funds she took. I'll apologize to you publicly. I can give you the rest of the Zhu family shares. One last message. Can you come down and see me? I stared at it for a long time. Wen Tang sat beside me. Want to see him? I shook my head. It wasn't fear of softening. It was pointless. I spent 10 years listening to him talk about the future. Now I don't want to hear a single word. I opened my phone and replied to the property management. If he stays any longer, treat it as harassment. Half an hour later, the property said Mr. J had left. Rain began to fall outside the window. I stood by the window, watching the empty sidewalk under the street light. Suddenly, I remembered many years ago, Zhu Yanwan's first startup failure on a rainy night just like this. He stood outside my dorm, soaked through just to tell me he wanted to try again. That day, I ran down with an umbrella and held it over his head. I said, then try again. Later, I understood. Not everyone deserves you holding an umbrella for them. Some people, once they have an umbrella, will push you into the rain. On the day the divorce verdict came down, I wore a cream white suit. Wen Tang said the color was good, like a new beginning. There were reporters at the courthouse. The Zhu family scandal had blown up so big that even our divorce became a public spectacle. I didn't like the attention, but I didn't hide because I had done nothing wrong. Zhu Yangguan arrived later than me. He had lost a lot of weight. The once perfectly tailored suit hung loose on him. Yolin didn't come. I heard she had fallen ill. Zhu Yuan didn't come either. Her sports car had been repossessed, her supplementary credit card canceled, and she was recently borrowing money from friends everywhere. Wen Ning certainly wouldn't come. She was being sued by the Zhu family for fraudulent expense reimbursements cut off by her when relatives. And I heard she was preparing to leave the city. The people who once surrounded Zhu Yangguan had scattered, one by one. Very realistic and very ironic. The court proceedings were calmer than I expected. The domestic violence was proven by hospital diagnosis and witness testimony from public occasions. The marital asset transfers were backed by bank records and chat logs. The guarantee document dispute was handled separately. The equity holding and premarital capital contributions were supported by the court for further review. When the divorce verdict was read aloud, I didn't react much. Only when I heard the words divorce granted did my fingers relax slightly, like a rope that had been pulled tight for too long, finally breaking. Zhu Yangguan sat across from me, head lowered. After the verdict, he called out to me, Kai Wu. I stopped. Wang stood beside me, not moving far. Zhu Yangguan looked at me. I know saying anything now is too late. I said nothing. His voice was, but I still want to ask, if it weren't for that slap, would you have stayed by my side forever? I looked at him. This question was cruel because the answer was, yes, if it weren't for that slap. I might have kept lying to myself, lying that he was just confused, lying that Wen Ning was just a fling, lying that marriage required endurance, lying that 10 years of love couldn't just be thrown away. So, in a way, I should thank that slap. It hurt, but it woke me up. I said, maybe. Zhu Yanyan's eyes instantly reened. I continued, so you should be glad that I left only after you hit me. He froze. I said, if I had stayed, you would have only looked down on me more, and I would have looked down on myself more. His lips moved. I regret it. I nodded. I know. He took a step forward. Then can we? No. I cut him off without hesitation. No softness. Zhu Yangguan, regret isn't a get out of jail free card. His tears finally fell. It was the first time I'd seen him cry. He didn't cry when his startup failed. He didn't cry when his father died. He didn't cry when his company went public. Now he was crying, but my heart was utterly still. I said, from now on, pay off your debts properly, handle your company properly, and be a decent human being. He lowered his head and let out a bitter laugh. You're so calm. You don't even bother to curse me. I said, because I don't love you anymore. That sentence cut deeper than any curse ever could. Zhu Yingguan stood there, his face ashen. I turned and walked away. The sunlight was blinding outside the courthouse. Reporters swarmed around me. Someone asked, Ms. Kai, Mr. J has publicly apologized. Will you consider a settlement? I paused, looked into the camera. No. Then what do you have to say about this marriage? I thought for a moment. The scariest thing in a marriage isn't one person changing their heart. It's when they enjoy your sacrifices while treating your boundaries as something to trample on. I hope everyone who's been hurt knows that leaving isn't failure. Cutting your losses in time is giving yourself back to yourself. With that, I didn't answer any more questions. Wen Tang accompanied me into the car. As the door closed, she handed me a bottle of water. Well said. I smiled. Improved. She looked at me. There's still a tough fight ahead. Equity confirmation, debt separation, guarantor liability investigation. I nodded. Let's fight. The car drove away from the courthouse. The city outside the window blurred past. A phone notification popped up. J Group enters restructuring. Zhu Yingguan officially removed from the executive board. Personal assets frozen due to guarantor liabilities and marital asset disputes. The headline was harsh. The fall of $1 billion CEO myth. A sky-high divorce case. As the final straw, I dismissed the notification. The final straw. No, what crushed Zhu Yingguan was never me. It was the greed, lies, arrogance, and recklessness he piled up one by one. I just stopped holding it up for him. 3 months after the divorce, I moved into a new office by the river. It wasn't huge, but the sunlight was beautiful. The sign on the door read, Caillou Legal and Financial Aid Fund. When Wu Tang arrived, she was holding a bouquet of flowers. Congratulations, President Kai. I took the flowers. Don't call me President Kai. It sounds like Zhu Yingguan. She laughed. Then, Ms. Kai, I said, that works. The fund's initial capital came from part of the marital assets I recovered. It wasn't the largest sum, but enough to get started. I didn't touch DG Group up again. The equity confirmation case was still in process. I only took back what was mine. No more, no less. Many people advised me to take over J Group at its lowest point, saying it was partly my effort, that I understood risk control better than Zhu Yingguan, that I could prove myself through this opportunity. I refused, not because I lacked the ability, but because I had no interest. I didn't want to tie my life to Zhu Group anymore. That building held 10 years of my youth and the most humiliating slap I ever received. I could retrieve what was mine from the ruins, but I wouldn't live in them. Yolin called me once. Her voice sounded much older. Kai Wu, I was wrong to you in the past. I didn't say it was okay. I only said, I hope you won't use the words, we're family to pressure any woman again. She cried on the other end of the line. After I hung up, I felt neither pain nor satisfaction. In the end, people always trip over the seeds they've sown. Zhu Yuan sent me a message. Sister-in-law, I was immature before. I'm sorry. I replied, I'm not your sister-in-law anymore. She didn't message again. As for Wen Ning's news, I heard it through Wu Tang. She was ordered to return part of her ill-gotten gains, and her career record bore a permanent stain. She tried to paint herself as a victim deceived by Zhu Yingguan. But financial records don't cry what she once gained through feigned weakness. She would have to give back through cold hard facts. As for Zhu Yingguan, on the day his bankruptcy liquidation was announced, the news alerts flooded in. Former Zhu's CEO Zhu Yanwan's personal assets enter liquidation proceedings. Zhu's restructuring plan approved. Founder era comes to an end. Aftermath of the sky-high divorce case. Caillou wins partial equity confirmation. I saw them. I didn't click that evening. The property management delivered a package. The sender's name was blank. I opened it. Inside was the wedding ring and a handwritten letter. I knew Ju Yanwan's handwriting well. He said he was leaving the city for a while. He said he finally understood that Ju's most valuable asset wasn't its financing, its projects, or its titles. It was the trust one once gave him. He said he was returning the ring, not to ask for a reconciliation, but simply to give back the last thing that belonged to me. The last line of the letter read, Kai Wu, I'm sorry. That slap was the greatest retribution of my life. I finished reading the letter. I didn't cry. I placed the ring in a transparent box and stuck a label on it. Date, location, event, like sealing away evidence. Not to hold a grudge, but to remind myself any relationship the moment it starts making you lose your dignity should be stopped. One Tang came to the office the next day and saw the box. Still keeping it. I said, yes. She raised an eyebrow. I smiled. Not for him. For myself. She understood. That evening, I went to the riverbank alone. The wind was strong. The horizon was painted with a vast swath of orange sunset. I stood by the railing and saw my reflection in the glass curtain wall. Short hair, a suit, a straight back, no Mrs. Ju, no CEO's wife, no Caillou, who was always cleaning up other people's messes at banquets. Just me. My phone buzzed. A message from the first person who sought help from the fund. She said her husband had hit her, too. She wanted to leave, but didn't know where to start. I stared at those words and slowly typed first. Go to the hospital for a medical examination. Save the bank, transfer records. Don't negotiate alone. You're not alone. After sending it, I looked up at the river. Night fell. Bit by bit, the city lights flickered on. I suddenly felt that life is actually very long. Long. Enough for a person to love the wrong one, and long enough for a person to start over. That storm, dubbed by the outside world as the $10 billion divorce, left me with nothing. Not money, not hatred, not news headlines. It left me with boundaries. It left me with freedom. It left me finally understanding that a woman's most valuable card has never been who she marries or who stands behind her. It's that after she's been shattered, she still has the strength to bend down and pick herself up and then step by step walk out.